Hey there, good morning. Good morning. Remember the 5th of November. Guy Fawkes and Bonfire Night and all of that. I'm not going to talk about that. Don't panic. Don't panic. Google it if you don't know. That's a terrible thing, isn't it? Google it. That's entered the old lexicon, hasn't it? Google it. Wow, it's a dangerous thing when you think about it. Go to a library. There you are. Is there a library near you, I wonder? Is there a library? One of the things that austerity has brought to cities and towns, villages, is the closure of libraries. Very important places, libraries. I remember joining the library on Browns Road in Waterford City when I was a young boy, when I was 9 or 10, joining the library, getting a library card with my name on it. I felt important. And taking out 2 books at a time and reading them and returning them and paying the 5p fines. Do you remember that? The 5p fines, 5p per week, that you were over, that the books were overdue. And one time and one time only getting a letter from the library. Where's that feckin' book? Libraries, very important places, and systematically cut funds to libraries cut in this country under the Conservative government. Yeah. Connect the dots, people. How are you doing, by the way? It is November 5th, 2019, and this is the Newspaper Review Show on YouTube with myself, Richie Allen, Big Baldy Gammon. And it's been raining heavily overnight. The fireworks were pretty bad in the early evening last. I'll give you a firework update until they stop. But jazz wasn't as bad yesterday as she was the previous day. That's the Jazz Woman. That's her full title. My Canine Companion, the Jazz Woman. And she wasn't so bad. We did a few, when I came off the radio show last night, turned on some music in the living room, put on some records, put on a bit of James Taylor. When you call, I turned up the volume. And made a big fuss, and that seemed to distract the dog from the noise outside. Anyway, good morning to those of you on the chat. Good morning. Morning. I'll read some of your comments as we go along. Okay, then, it is the Newspaper Review programme. Let's start with the Daily Mail. Is this the end of smear tests? New procedure will let women send off swab to check for cervical cancer, avoiding the ordeal of going to the doctors. That's very self-explanatory. New procedure to save you the bother of having your smear test done at your local GP. And there's Emma Watson, is it? From the Harry Potter films. And you know, this is where ultimately the century of the self, this is where narcissism ultimately leads. I'm self-partnered. I am so in love with myself. I have gone that far into myself and so far up my own arse that I can't even comprehend the notion of sharing my life with anybody. Why would I want to do that? I've got me. Yeah. And white stilettos are back. God damn it. White stilettos. There you are. What's on the front page of the Daily Mirror newspaper? The end of smear testing. Again, DIY home urine sample kit to revolutionise cervical cancer screening. And I mentioned Carol Vorderman, didn't I? What a coincidence. The original mathematical genius from Channel 4's Countdown. There she is. Look at her. Look at the size of those knockers on Carol. My 10 favourite moments from Pride of Britain. I've just objectified Carol Vorderman there. And I couldn't give a shite. She's aging well, is Carol. Like the best wines. There she is. Carol Vorderman. Carol Vorderman. Remember Father Dougal, remember? Give us a P, please, Carol. Number 3. No, give us a vowel. Give us a fucking vowel. Get it right, Richie. At the Times, Labour's 4-day week to cost taxpayers £17 billion. Comrade Corbyn and his ridiculous Marxist policies will bankrupt the country, says the Times. It's a nice picture of the new Speaker of the House getting dragged to the chair. Sir Lindsay. Hi to Maniac76. Morning all. Question please, Richie. I've learned how to deal with super chats. I'm supposed to read them out. Nigel Farage. Whilst I don't like him, he is clearly the best chance we have of getting a Brexit. Thoughts, says Maniac76. Well, look, Farage has advocated all along a clean break from the European Union. That is, leaving with no deal whatsoever. You know, quite rightly, I've always agreed with that. You shouldn't be making any deals, or you shouldn't need to make any deals, at least not initially, with any organisation that you are leaving. You know, particularly when you are leaving it because you don't like the direction in which it is moving. So you should be able to leave it without having to acquiesce to what it is they want. And, you know, you shouldn't be leaving on their terms. You leave on your own terms and then you say, OK, we'll now negotiate some sort of deal after we've left. Does Farage believe it? I believe he does. Does the Brexit Party have any chance whatsoever of doing that? You know, of realising that ambition, that vision? Maniac, I would say no. No, because the Brexit Party is not going to form a majority government after the election on December 12th. Is the Brexit Party going to have enough MPs to make it a significant kingmaker? It might do. I think we might have a hung parliament in a few weeks' time on December 13th. What part then the Brexit Party will play in shaping the next government, I don't know, mate. So I'm not giving you a vague answer. I just don't know. I believe Farage believes it. But I also don't believe, Maniac, that the country or that you or me and our friends and neighbours would be in a very good spot if we were left with the Brexit Party running the government. I've told you what I think Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg would do to the country if they were given the chance to shape it post-Brexit. You know? That's where I agree with my friend Neil Sanders. So I've given you an answer, my friend. Thanks for supporting the programme. And I believe the UK should be outside the European Union. Full stop. And I've been saying that for years. I said it about Ireland. Should have no place, no part in any totalitarian super state which the European Union is becoming, has become. It's terrible for people. It's terrible for countries, not just, you know, to say sovereignty, which is a buzzword, a cliche. It's dreadful because decision making then isn't in the hands of the people you elect inside your country. It's taken out of their hands and given to a bunch of unelected bureaucrats. That's what the European Union is. And that's why I despise it. I loathe it. But I'm no fan of Farage either, and free market capitalism, and where that ends up. And I think you know that if you've watched this, not this nonsense, if you've listened to the Richie Allen radio show. Thanks very much for your question. The I paper. The woman who defied Alzheimer's. I've not read this. I've not had time to read it this morning in any depth. Patient with rare genetic mutation raises fresh hope that a cure for dementia can be found. That's the story. You can read it yourself because the I paper is free for all. We'll skip the Financial Times. We'll go straight to the Guardian. PM accused of cover-up over report on Russian meddling in UK politics. This is to do with the former Attorney General Dominic Grieve, who wants a report to be published before the election that claims that there is proof of Russian meddling in UK elections, including the 2016 European Union in-out referendum. So there's a war again between staunch Remain MP Dominic Grieve. Had the whip withdrawn, didn't he, Grieve? Former Attorney General. That's the front page story on The Guardian. You can read that, theguardian.com. And there's Sir Lindsay Hoyle, who was elected the next Speaker of UK Parliament. The next Speaker of the Commons being taken to his chair, as is the tradition in Westminster last night. Yes, there you are. It's the Telegraph then. Post-union plotting to wreck election. Aspiring drone pilots must take a theory test to fly. And Corbyn would harm the cause of women in work. You got 3 stories there. The unionist post-union. That's post-union is the Royal Mail Union. It's a speculative story that strikes by Royal Mail workers around election time are looming. You know, Royal Mail staff threatening to go on strike, pay and working conditions. When was it ever not that? But they might use the election. Why not? As a trade unionist myself, how could I criticise them? I certainly wouldn't. The Express. PM tells Corbyn come clean on Brexit. It's obvious what that is about. Corbyn is a staunch Brexiteer, of course. Not that he'd ever tell you that these days. The Metro, Mac and Fried. This made me laugh yesterday. McDonald's CEO, well, the British head of McDonald's, lost his job over a consensual affair that he had. Mac and Fried. Apparently, the news that he was going to lose his job or had lost his job wiped fortunes off the share price of McDonald's. I love a bit of insider trading, me. McDonald's top bosses would have known that they were planning to fire the McDonald's UK dude. I wonder, did they leave their friends in the city, or some of them, did they let them in on that little nugget of wisdom? Little phone call to 1 or 2 carefully placed traders. Hey Billy, this is Mikey over at McDonald's over at Mickey D's in New York. Listen, we're going to fire the UK head of McDonald's tomorrow. Short sell the fucking bejesus out of the shares. Of course it goes on. Don't expect the Securities and Exchange Commission, by the way, who couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery. Don't expect them to look into it. That's how it works, you see. I wish I'd known. Not that I have much money, but I could have taken the little money I have and called a broker, called up Jeff Berwick or somebody like that. Hey Jeff, short sell McDonald's, here's 50 quid. Yeah. The puritanical McDonald's, eh? Who'd have thunk it? Yeah. And this Egypt stuck a firework up his arse and lit it. And the Sun's very wise warning to the nation this morning is, don't try this at home. The Jackass Boys legacy lives long, doesn't it? Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O and Chris Pontius and Wee Man. What sort of a fucking Egypt sticks a firework up his arse, eh? Probably the same sort of Egypt who sticks a baby pigeon up his arse. That's probably George Osborne there, the editor of the Evening Standard, former Chancellor of the Exchequer. It might just very well be him. And Dolly Parton! Now, I know I mentioned Bob Seger, I know I mentioned Elvis, but we don't go a week, the future Mrs. Allen and I, without listening to Dolly Parton. I'm not joking, by the way. We're massive Dolly fans. Dolly vinyl adorns the Richie Allen show towers. We love Dolly. Dolly's getting involved in a Sun newspaper programme to supply school kids with books. Dolly Parton. Marvellous. Yeah. Marvellous. Love Dolly. Got into Dolly years ago. An uncle of mine started getting me interested in country music. I could start listing off names now, some of whom you'd have heard of, some of whom you wouldn't have heard of. He began with the obvious legends, you know, Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, of course, And then everybody from Patsy Cline, Charlie Pride, and then going on and on and on and on, and a lot of people you wouldn't have heard of. Yeah, and Dolly. Became a big fan of Dolly about 10 or 12 years ago. Love Dolly. Can't beat a bit of Dolly. The Star. We have ways of making you laugh. German TV calls in crack Brit comedy team. The Germans don't have much of a sense of humour. I noticed in over the years I spent some time in Germany, in Munich. Because a very good friend of mine called Emmett, a great guy, Emmett McCarthy, in fact, lived and has lived and lives in Germany. And I used, many moons ago, I used to go to Munich to visit Emmett. And, yeah. You can't say the Germans don't have a sense of humour, but it's very different to ours. The Irish are famous, and I think the English, we share this, we're famous for our penchant for Mickey taking. We like taking a piss out of one another. The Germans don't do that. I was in a pub in Germany, in Munich, back in 2001, having a drink with some Irish guys who lived in Munich. And we were in the company of some German guys. And one of the Irish guys had been fired from his job as a receptionist. Kind of like receptionist stroke, kind of concierge, for want of a better word, at a big company, at a big factory, a big company. And he was fired because it was found that he was making telephone calls to a sex line. He was working late at night on shifts and he was bored. And he used to phone up a sex line. You know, do you remember those ads on TV? 0898 21 21 21 party line. You could ring up a girl and she'd talk dirty to you down the phone while you were... Right? Yeah, I just did that. Right? So you're like... And she's saying stuff to you. And anyway, he was found to be doing it and he was fired. And of course, he's having a beer in Munich with Irish mates. And they're ripping the piss out of him. And the Germans didn't find it funny. And one of the German guys says to me, as I was picking myself up off the floor, laughing so hard was I, "This is not funny, no? This is a very low time in this guy's life, no?" Like, laugh, you fucking kraut. It's funny. He got fired for making sex calls. Germans don't find anything funny. And 3 days later, I swear to God, my friend Emmett and I went to a German karaoke bar. This is a famous story among my friends. Into the German karaoke bar we rocked. Up to the microphone I went, and in the ghetto I sang. In the ghetto, and as a young man dies. Give it fucking socks, right? Came down and we were drinking lots and lots of Helles. Zwei Helle bitte, danke. Getting pissed out of our brains. And as the drunker we got, the more we started to laugh at the German singers. And one singer in particular who had a speech impediment. A German singer. And he went up to sing Suspicious Minds. Again, by the king of rock and roll. Who is alive, by the way. He's working at Halford's in the Trafford Centre. He fixed my windscreen wipers the other day. 85 and looking well. Elvis Presley. So this German guy with a speech impediment goes up to sing Suspicious Minds. But doesn't say Suspicious Minds. He says Espicious Minds for some reason. So he's singing, "We can't go on together with Espicious Minds, with Espicious Minds." We start laughing so hard, I swear to Jesus. A doorman comes up, and even the doormen in Germany are professional and polite. "Yeah, you must leave now. You must leave now." Why? We're just laughing. "You must leave now." Silly Irishmen. So we left. No sense of fucking humour, the Germans. "We can't go on together with these suspicious minds." Fucking idiot. Right, good morning, by the way, to everybody on the chat there. Hi to Mubal Zizzery. I heard you about the McDonald's manager who got fried for putting his meat between the wrong buns. That's a good comment, mate. Well done. Good job. Totally true. If I tell you a story, it is true, yeah. Guy got fired for making sex calls. What do you do when your friend gets fired from his job for something as pathetic as that? You rip the bejesus piss out of him for the rest of his life. He'll be 70 and he'll be going into a pub and he'll be getting his bottle of stout and his baby powers. A baby powers is a shot of Irish whiskey. And somebody will remind him of that 45 years later. There's Paul. Do you want a loan of me phone, Paul? Paul, do you need a loan of me phone? That's the way it goes. Good morning. Big Tom and the mainliners, says Maxine. Atta girl, Maxine. Atta girl. Brendan Shine. Do you want your old lobby washed down, sunshine? Do you want your old lobby washed down? I'm feeling very Irish today. I talked about Gay Byrne last night on the radio show. The newspapers today in Ireland and even the UK media full of tributes to one of the greatest broadcasters that ever lived, Gay Byrne. And there's lots of YouTube videos of Gay conducting debates between politicians on the stage and letting the audience join in. The guy was masterful. 85 years old. He died yesterday. So there you go. Paul Meany says, great show, Richie. Tory austerity since 2009 has killed more than 120,000 UK citizens. That's according to the British Medical Journal. More dead even than Brits killed in the Korean War. And that's the thing, Paul. That's what austerity is meant to do. It's meant to delete people. I know it sounds very, very weird to people who catch a show like this for the very first time. Come on, Richie, what's a load of bollocks? They can't be trying to kill people. Well, when we say they, the people who are the face of those policies, they might not be trying to kill people. I'm not saying that Boris Johnson, David Cameron, George Osborne, Sajid Javid, I'm not saying that they, odious as they are thinking about killing people. I would venture they're probably not. But they don't invent these policies. They don't write them or dream them up. They are dreamt up somewhere else and given to the front men and women whom you see parading around parliaments around the world. They're the front men and women. They don't come up with anything. They're puppets. The people who do dream up these policies, yeah, they want to delete people. Of course they do. And I think it's obvious now, isn't it? Yeah. Sociopaths, says Byron Raver. They're psychopaths, is what they are. Right. Yeah. Imagine getting thrown out of a karaoke bar for laughing at a singer. And when I sing at karaoke, people generally laugh, they belly laugh. And I'm not trying to make them laugh. I don't mind, it's all part of the fun, isn't it? Let's have a look at a very serious story in The Guardian. Hang on a second there now. That's not cricket, is it? David Icke would probably say this is an example of inversion. Rough sleepers are being deported from the UK, but they are being deported incredibly with the help of religious groups that you might have imagined would be thinking of how they could look after, feed, and maybe house, and maybe clothe, and maybe keep warm those misfortunate enough to find themselves on the streets. But no, religious and community organisations have been paid thousands of pounds by the Home Office to assist immigration enforcement teams in removing people from the UK, in most cases rough sleepers. This is Diane Taylor in The Guardian. It's an excellent article. It's horrible, but it's a good bit of journalism. There is mounting concern about Home Office tactics to deport migrant rough sleepers from the UK and its use of payments to assist with these removals, with the department facing accusations of racial profiling. The Manchester-based human rights charity Refugee and Asylum Seeker Participatory Action Research got the list, gave it to The Guardian. 21 Home Office immigration surgeries are embedded in community centres and places of worship across London and in Birmingham, Slough and Manchester. Hindus, Muslims and Sikhs are being targeted for removal, along with Brazilians, Albanians and Chinese people. Yeah, I know. Right? I know those of you who lean to the right, you'll be saying, we have enough poverty without looking after other people's poor. I know that will be shouted at me. That's not the issue. That's not the issue. This is an inversion. Religious groups, those who piously worship a higher power, and all of the higher powers, by the way, I've looked into all of them, right? Say that you must do all you can for the least fortunate amongst us if you want to have any chance of joining the Creator in paradise. This is nuts, this. Being paid, religious groups being paid to assist with the deportation of the worst off people in the country. Yeah, the story's in The Guardian. If you want to read it, it's fairly depressing. It's what David Icke, to give him his proper title, would define or declare to be an inversion. We live in a lunatic asylum. There's quite a few stories in the newspapers this morning about Israel, about Jews and about anti-Semitism. I won't dwell too long on them, don't panic, because it comes up too often in the radio show. But here's one. Fair play to the Mail for running this. Leaked footage shows shocking moment Israeli policewoman shoots Palestinian in the back for fun. She was fired. So kudos to the police captain or chief or disciplinary authority there. They fired her. But she may face charges. The man was badly injured, but he wasn't killed because he was shot with a sponge-tipped bullet. He was surrounded by Israeli police. They were deliberately giving him confusing instructions. One would scream an instruction at him, another police officer would scream another. This is what they do to humiliate and disorientate the Palestinians. Because the Israelis, you see, they see the Palestinians the same way that the Nazis saw the Jews. The Nazis saw the Jews as vermin, as a subhuman species. That's how the Nazis categorized the Jews. And that is the way Israel, the racist, apartheid, illegitimate state of Israel, that is how it sees Palestinians as animals, as a subspecies. And children in Israel are indoctrinated into believing this. Hence, when they do go into the IDF or into the police, they do unspeakable things to human beings. Like shoot the guy in the back for fun as he's running away. And the Mail is on top of it. I don't understand this might face charges. The woman should be put on trial. And if it is proven, that which is on video, by the way, I would say she should spend 25 fucking years in prison. Lock the fucker up with a minimum of 15 years in jail. 25 with a minimum of 15 if you can fucking behave yourself. Send a message out to your IDF soldiers and to your policemen and women that it is unspeakable to do things like this to people. The people who belong there. The indigenous people, by the way. Fucking shocking, that. But it goes on all the time, you know. It's one story in the Mail. This goes on morning, noon and night in the West Bank. The Mail decided to cover it for God knows why. But fair play. Maybe some people are getting fed up of fucking Israel. Maybe some journalists are getting fed up of the influence, the Zionist influence in UK politics, in UK public life, in Western politics, in Western public life. Maybe some journalists are saying enough's enough now. Enough is enough. But the Mail also runs this story. Zara Sultana, there's a name. Zara Sultana. She's a prospective Labour candidate in the forthcoming election. And she's under fire from the Jewish Chronicle, which I know very well. The Jewish Chronicle has become obsessed with your radio presenter here. Not a week goes by when I don't get a mention. Not because I'm particularly odious, but because of the people I choose to interview. Fucking Jewish Chronicle. I wouldn't wipe my arse with it. Garbage. Masquerading as news. This woman is being hammered for tweets she made when she was a student about Israel's behaviour. And one of them hinted that when Tony Blair and Benjamin Netanyahu die, she would celebrate. Hardly racism or anti-Semitism. You might say a bit immature. And it is. It's the type of thing I would have said when I was a student. Now, I don't wish death on anybody because you become like these people. Benjamin Netanyahu is a psychopath. He is a racist, a madman, a lunatic who would allow his wife go down for him in order to preserve his career and his status as the Israeli Prime Minister. This bent, corrupt, filthy bastard Netanyahu. Psychopath. But you wish pain and you wish injury and you wish illness and you wish death on these people. You become these people. You're better than that. I'm better than that. I'm better than the Jewish Chronicle. I'm better than the campaign against anti-Semitism. I'm a humane, decent, loving human being who doesn't hate anybody. These people hate. They fucking hate every second of the day. So don't be like them. Don't wish death on them. They might have a big surprise coming to them when they go off this earth feet first, maybe. But again, I don't wish that on them either. Fuck them. You know? Don't lower yourselves to their level. Yeah. That's what the Jewish Chronicle does, you see. This fucking garbage masquerading as news. Spends days and weeks and months going through people's Twitter. They've done it to me and found fuck all, really. Nothing. Except me saying I'm sick to death of the Holocaust, which really annoyed them. I still am, by the way. I check every morning with myself. I get up, put my trousers on, have a cup of tea, and I'll think about leaving the ass. And then I think about anti-Semitism. And then I think, what do you think of the Holocaust this morning, Rich? And I go, yeah, I'm still fucking sick of it. Hearing about it, that is. So this woman, will be interesting to see does Labour withdraw her candidacy and put somebody else up instead of her. Will they bow down to it? Yeah. I'm staying with it because there's three stories. I said I'd be brief. I'll try and be brief. David Baddiel, the comedian and playwright. He's got a play in London at the moment, which has not been very well reviewed. But I like the tone or the theme of the play, funnily enough. Myself. It's the kind of thing I would go and watch. Baddiel... Have I got news for you? What the fuck is wrong with me? Fantasy football, that's right. He slams fucking ludicrous Holocaust deniers and anti-Semitism wave. What's the anti-Semitism wave? Is that it? Is that it? Or does he mean a wave of anti-Semitism? He can't mean a wave of anti-Semitism because that isn't true. There is no anti-Semitism in England. None. Anyway, there's Baddiel. He's it's ironic that the Star doesn't mention that he is the front man for a big BBC documentary about anti-Semitism in the UK, which will air next year, which they invited me to be a part of. And I said, no problem. I will be interviewed by David Baddiel so long as I can film the interview. And then they just went away. Sadly. You're not going to stitch me up, you motherfuckers. Been around the block too many times, you know. So there's Baddiel anyway. He says he's going to use humour to deal with it. Good man, good man. That's the answer. If you feel that we are surrounded by anti-Semites and Holocaust and others, first of all, show me some proof, but then use humour and debate to eviscerate. Use humour and debate to eviscerate. That's what you do. But don't say, anti-Semitic bastard. Really? Can I have right of reply? Can we talk? No, I don't speak to hateful bigots like you. That's what they say. Accuse you of being anti-Semitic and bigoted, but then run away from a debate. It's strange. But that's what they do. Baddiel says he's going to change tack and he's going to use humour. Good man. Good man. Good news. Good news. 6 minutes past the hour. What else have I got for you? That story about religious groups participating for money in deporting rough sleepers. It's shit, isn't it? Don't confuse it with the issue of people being here illegally, because I'm not in favour of that. Okay? It's an inversion. We have Stoptober, don't we? Well, I've never smoked. You might have smoked at one time. We have Stoptober, where people try and give up the drink. They try and give up the drink. The drink. For a month. I've never done it. I'm not stupid. I'm not falling for that shit. I like to have a drink at the weekend. So I've never done Stoptober. We have Movember, where people grow moustaches for various... Is it for cancer? Is it? I don't know what it's for. Movember. And apparently, and this came as a huge shock to me this morning, we also have No Nut November. I did fight with myself whether or not to do this story this morning. No Nuts November. Do you know what it's about? Can you guess? No Nut November. Somebody sent me a super chat. I better say hello, or I will be the biggest bastard of all time. It was Mott Nitram 1. Thank you, Mott Nitram 1, for that lovely donation. I really appreciate that. It's very kind of you. In US dollars, so you're in the US, you're stateside. Good morning. You're up nice and early. Thanks a million for that. Yeah. Yeah, Carl says a lot of people tried to give up the old drink in January. I have done that before and succeeded. Yeah, it's good. You sleep much better. Your skin looks healthier. Your eyes look clearer. But then on February 1st, you go, give me that fucking Bacardi. Bacardi. 31 days. Brilliant. And of course, logically, you should just carry on. But no. God, Bacardi. Right. No Nut November. What's it all about? Well, No Nut November. Can't believe I'm doing this story, but you know how childish I am, so I'm going to do it anyway. No Nut November is where porn addicts pledge to go the month of November without masturbating. Now you know what No Nut November means. Yeah. Well, I spell it out for those who don't know. The term nut is a slang term for ejaculation. And Pornhub, which is one of the biggest carriers of porn on planet Earth, has been trolling people, its own users, who've not been able to go a few minutes into November without watching a pornographic video. Hence, No Nut November. We live in an absolute basket case of a world, don't we? Don't we? Don't we just? It's a lunatic asylum, isn't it? Wow. 100 million video views in 48 hours. 20 million people failed No Nut November. And then they say weak. Jesus. It's why there's no intimacy. It's why couples don't have sex. Porn addiction. I'm telling you. No Nut November. Mother of divine Jesus Christ. Yeah. And every year, an Irish football player called James McLean, every year, the newspapers never tire of this, he gets a load of shite because he won't wear the poppy for Remembrance Sunday. Now, James is an Irish Republican. That's all we have in common. Well, I say that. I'm not a very good footballer myself. Not for the want of trying, but not very good. James won't wear the poppy because, as an Irish Republican, he takes great issue with the conduct of British forces in Ireland for many a year. And every year he gets hammered for it. People have short memories. He always does it. He's from Derry. Is James. I made a big mistake years ago. Speaking of Derry, some years ago, I was on the radio. I was in Spain, so I was. And I had arranged an interview with Gerry Adams, the former president of Sinn Féin. And it was a pre-recorded interview. So I'm at the end of the line. Adams is at the end of his line. And I said to him, Mr. Adams, if you just stand by, I'm going to do a quick introduction now and I'm going to record it as if it's live. And Adams says, sure. So then I says, so I read the first paragraph of a story about Sinn Féin and I said, joining me on the line now from Londonderry is Sinn Féin President Gerry Adams. Good morning. Stone cold silence. Good morning. Silence. Mr. Adams, are you still there? Londonderry. Londonderry. Do you want to start this again, son? Oh yeah, Londonderry. I was reading the newspaper, you see. Sorry about that. Joining me on the line now from Derry is Gerry Adams. Good morning, Mr. Adams. Good morning. Yeah, Londonderry. That pissed me off for weeks. For weeks I was berating myself. You fucking idiot, Richie. You of all people. Yeah, so they won't leave James McLean alone. You don't wear the poppy, kid. I wouldn't wear the poppy either. Now, I have great sympathy for the men and women who are coerced into joining the armed forces, who are lied to. Often people with not very much going for them, who are seduced and romanced into joining the army, lied to, brainwashed into thinking you're serving your country. And then they are sent over to hellholes of our own creation in the Middle East. They are subjected to unspeakable atrocities. They are subjected to medication and they are injected with stuff and sprayed with stuff that they don't consent to. And then they come back and many of them end up fucked. I have a lot of sympathy with them. Don't get me wrong. I don't blame them. But I'm not wearing that fucking poppy. God, no. And I understand why James McLean wouldn't wear it. It just makes me laugh that every year they give him shit for it. He's been a pro for 10 years now. When are they going to go, oh yeah, there's no point in running that story again. We all know now that James McLean doesn't wear the poppy. Breaking news! James McLean doesn't wear the poppy. Anyway, final story for today. RT, is this child abuse? Jesus Christ. Internet unites in disgust at tweet promoting 12-year-old drag queen Desmond is amazing as the future. Apparently this 12-year-old child has stripped in gay bars or in strip clubs. Maybe not attended by men, maybe strip clubs. Yeah, it would be a strip, not a gay bar, a strip club. And men have thrown money at this 12-year-old kid in drag. What the fuck is going on? I mean, seriously. Holy Jesus. The media news site Mashable, which is fairly huge, has declared Desmond to be amazing and to be the future. Please Christ, please Jesus, know that this is not the future. Danced for the attention of grown men and dollars at strip clubs. What the fuck? Huh? Exploitation of children, according to a commentator. Huh? It's in your face, huh? 12-year-old dancing in a strip club while money's been thrown at him while he's in drag. How does that happen? How does it even happen? Yeah. Jesus. Look, that's it for this newspaper review this morning. Thanks for watching it. I appreciate it. You know I do. I'll be back with you at 5. Jeffrey Jackson will be live on the Richie Allen Show from the East Coast this afternoon. And then an irate Jim Fetzer, who lost his defamation case with Lenny Posner. Jim returns to the programme. He's not altogether thrilled about comments made by Kevin Barrett and myself last week on the programme. We're not falling out with one another, but he's annoyed. I think he's more annoyed that neither I nor Kevin will commit to saying, yes, we totally agree with you, Jim, and no children died. That's what he expects, I think. And I can't give him that commitment or assurance because I have not been convinced of it. But isn't that the beauty of the radio show? He can talk about it. And he can talk about his case. There are some very concerning things about Jim's case. He wasn't given what we would call due process. He wasn't. I've examined it. And he wasn't given a fair shake. You know? So whether he's right or wrong is kind of irrelevant when you look at what happened in the case. So Jim will be on. Like having Jim on. Love Jim. So we'll see. Could be heated, but that's all right. In fact, most of my conversations with Jim, they are heated anyway. So Jim will be on later on. Right, so that's at 5 on the usual channels. In the meantime, have a good Tuesday. Alrighty. Back at 5 p.m. Bye for now. Look at this. Look at fucking this. Look. In a brewery. I told you. In a brewery. In a brewery. There's me accusing people of piss-ups in breweries.